Hello out there in Friendship Village land. This is your voice of Friendship Village coming at you again with a very special guest to hear from later. And I'm sure you'll enjoy his sharing of experiences in his life. And before we get too well into the program today, we want to present to you our sponsor for this podcast. And our sponsor is the Village Voices, the dedicated group of singers who gather together weekly and rehearse and present programs on campus and off of campus as well. And we're being directed once again this year by Cindy Lear after about a 3-year hiatus because of COVID-19. And so it just so happens that there are 3 people in this room right at this moment, and all 3 are members of the Village Voices. So, Mary, is there anything else you'd like to say about Village Voices?
Well, we have given 2 concerts so far, and we have 2 more. 3? No, we've given 3.
Yeah.
We have 2 more to go.
2 more to go.
Right. Otherwise, we really enjoy singing.
Cindy always seems to come up with some interesting songs.
Right. Right. They may not be your typical blend, but she has a lot of input in it, and she teaches us a lot. Yes, she's a good teacher.
And you can easily tell she's enthused about what she does.
And she gets us enthused.
And that enthusiasm is catching. You're right. So thank you, Cindy Lear, for directing us again this season. Let me just continue here with a quick little joke. So the joke involves a mother and her 2 sons. Her 2 sons are about age 5 and 7, and they're at home, and it's time for breakfast. So the mother's out in the kitchen making pancakes, and the 2 boys are sitting at the table waiting to receive and enjoy their mother's good cooking. And after a while, the 2 boys get to arguing about who should have the first pancake off the griddle. And the arguing goes on, and then the mother jumps in she sees it as an opportunity to maybe teach them a good Christian lesson. So she says, boys, let's not argue about who gets the first. Let's just think for a moment about what Jesus would do if he were here at the table. I think he would want the other person to have the first pancake. And the boys nod in agreement. And finally the older one says, okay, Billy, you be Jesus. Okay. All right. Another chuckle.
All right. Chuckle.
Yeah, okay. So, Mary, are you ready to proceed with our interview?
Yes.
Started.
We have a very special guest here, and he is very musical also. We'll get into his career a little bit later, but his name is Jim Leet, and he lives here in the village, not too far down the hall, around the corner, and
Another floor,
yes. Anyway, welcome, Jim, to our podcast.
Thank you.
And we'll start out by saying, where were you born?
I was born in Lansing, Michigan.
Way up north.
You still have connections there, right?
I still have connections in Michigan, but not so much in Lansing anymore.
Okay.
How long did you live there?
About 5 years.
Okay. So you started school there?
Barely.
Okay. And then you moved?
Family moved to Mount Pleasant, Michigan, which is about 70 miles north of Lansing, right in the middle of the Mitten.
Okay.
Of the who?
The Mitten.
The Mitten.
The Lower Peninsula is shaped like a mitten. You don't know that? Everybody knows that.
I don't know. I'll look next time I look. I'll look for a mitten.
Michigan has a unique shape because of the Great Lakes. Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, and Lake Superior all come together at that point, and so it creates a very distinctive mitten shape for the Lower Peninsula.
Okay.
Wow, we learned something new, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes. So how long did you live there?
Well, I lived there until I graduated from high school.
Okay. What were your parents doing?
My parents owned a business. They owned a printing business, and they produced something that today we would call a shopper or an advertiser.
Oh, okay.
Something that was mailed to every mailing address in the county. And it was a very major advertising vehicle at that time.
Right.
And did you learn the printing business?
I sure did. More of the mundane aspects of the business, like hauling mail from the business to the post office and so forth. But yes, I did a lot of things, and I learned a lot of tasks related to offset printing.
I have a little background in offset printing. Maybe we could swap stories here sometime when we get together.
Yeah.
And I do too, because my dad owned a newspaper, and I learned how to set type. And I learned how to run the presses, and so we
got the
we got
makings
another
here.
connection here.
Yeah.
We got the makings of a print shop right here.
Yeah, well, those weren't the funnest days.
Things have kind of changed dramatically in the printing business.
Yes, it's all computer.
Yeah.
So then, after you graduated, did you go on to college?
Yes, I did.
And where was that?
Well, my first 2 years were at Wheaton College in Illinois, and Wheaton is a liberal arts school, and I wasn't too sure what I was going to do at that time for a career. And it was an excellent basic education at the college level.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I finally decided I wanted to go into engineering, Wheaton didn't have an engineering program, so I transferred to Michigan State
Okay.
Okay.
and got a degree in electrical engineering and graduated in 1964.
Okay. And your first job?
Well, it was a tough situation because I was in the ROTC program, and because I had transferred from Wheaton to Michigan State, I had some catch-up to do in my basic engineering curriculum. So I had 2 summers that I had to go to school.
Mm.
And one of those summers normally would have been ROTC summer camp. So since I was unable to do it during the regular rotation, I had to do it after I graduated. So I graduated in June, and I immediately went to ROTC summer camp.
Mm.
And then I had a reporting date of May in the following year. So I wasn't available to work until middle of August, and I could only work till May of the following year. So the recruiters weren't too interested in me because, it wouldn't have been a very... But I did have one job offer. I took it. It was with a firm in New York that produced... What was a government contract firm that produced electronic countermeasures equipment for fighter aircraft. That was my first job after I graduated.
Yeah. Did you need some governmental clearance to work in that place?
I had to have a secret clearance.
Okay.
So how long did you stay there?
So I guess 6 or 7 months.
Oh, okay.
And then I had to report to active duty in the Army.
Okay. And did you go someplace?
Did you know that was coming?
Yeah, I knew that was coming. Sure, I had an obligation from ROTC.
Okay.
I had an obligation for at least 2 years.
So you knew when you were finished with ROTC, you'd be in the active.
Well, I knew I would be in the Army, but at my reporting date, I also knew.
Okay.
So yes, I did know that I was going to report the following May.
Okay.
And where did they send you?
Well, my first assignment was in Aberdeen, Maryland, the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. I was assigned to the Ordnance Corps, which is responsible for all the equipment and ammunition. Mm-hmm. And so the equipment would be as mundane as trucks and other vehicles, and as complex as advanced artillery systems and land-based tactical missile systems.
Wow.
And air defense guided missile systems.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first post, but that was a 9-week officer orientation class, and then we were assigned a more permanent assignment.
So you got to travel a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I was my permanent assignment then was at the United States Missile and Munitions Center and School in Huntsville, Alabama. So I was there for 3 years.
Wow. You still got to travel a little bit. See some of the country.
Fortunately, I didn't get to travel as much as some people did in those days.
Right.
That was during the Vietnam
Okay.
Yeah.
involvement, and I didn't get to participate in that in an active way, and I'm thankful for that.
Right. Right. Along the way, did you meet your lovely wife?
Well, I actually met Elisa in 1959 when I was working at a summer camp in the Adirondack Mountains of New York. She and I were assigned to work in the dining room together. I was a waiter, and she was we called them coffee girls, but she took care of the beverages.
Okay.
So we got to know each other in a couple of summers there.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't terribly interested in me at that time.
It's usually one thing or the other.
However, that did form the basis for our relationship, which interestingly blossomed when I came to work in my first job, which was on Long Island, and she lived on Long Island.
Oh.
And I was from Michigan. I didn't know very many people. I didn't know any people out in the New York area, and so I took my staff list from Camp of the Woods, which is where I met Elisa, with me, and gave her a call, not knowing if she was still at that address or phone number because it had been 5 years.
Oh.
We had really had no contact during those 5 years.
Okay.
And her mother answered the phone and immediately invited me over for dinner,
Oh my.
which pleased me, but I think Elisa was a little miffed. But yeah, that was in August, and by next June we were married.
Okay.
Okay.
It blossomed.
It blossomed.
It blossomed. Very good.
So her initial reaction to you 5 years previously, which wasn't really hot, it changed.
Well, it was in a different context.
Oh, okay.
But yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were both ready for a mature relationship at that time.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thank the Lord for that.
Sure.
She was just a wonderful gal, and I miss her.
Right. Then did you settle out in that eastern area, or did you go someplace else?
Well, we didn't settle any place until we were done with the Army,
Okay.
but she was able to accompany me
Yeah.
throughout my assignment.
All right.
Okay.
And when we were ready to leave the Army, she was working as a secretary to a high-level official at IBM in Huntsville, Federal Systems Division. They were responsible for developing the instrument unit for the Apollo rocket that sent the men to the moon.
Right.
And her boss asked her, he knew we were leaving the Army, and he asked her what I was going to do, and suggested that I apply to IBM in Boca Raton, Florida, because they were building a new facility out there. And long story short, I think he was influential in getting me a job. down there. So I went to work for IBM in Boca Raton, Florida, as a quality engineer
Okay.
in 1968 when I was discharged from
Okay.
active duty.
And did you start a family right away?
No, not right away. We have 2 adopted children.
Okay.
And we adopted David in 1969 and Joy in 1974.
Okay. As babies or as a little older children?
Well, David was a baby. He was 3 months when we got him, and Joy was a little older. She was 7 months. But
Okay.
they were
babies,
both
yes.
youngsters. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Really, really wonderful. So then they moved around with you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, we moved around quite a bit with IBM.
So how did you get to Waterloo then? We'll just skip all the other and get to Waterloo.
How did we get to Waterloo? After I took an early retirement from IBM in 1992, we spent 4 years working on the staff of Kono Christian School, which no longer exists as it did in those days. But at that time, it was a school that served both boarding and local children, who mainly children who had issues that weren't adequately addressed in their home environment. So
Is that a Florida school?
no, it was located in Walker, Iowa. Walker's about 15 miles south of Independence.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
And actually, the school was out in the country, about 2 miles north of Walker,
Okay.
a couple hundred acres.
Wow.
And I was the business manager, and Elisa worked in the library, and we both had a lot of involvement with the kids
That's
at
good.
various levels.
Okay.
So, yeah, we were in a position where we didn't really need much money. I had a good settlement from IBM when I left, and we didn't have any debts, so we spent 4 years there. And we got to know Iowa a little bit. When we moved to Rochester, we had moved to Rochester earlier in our IBM career, and we started a church up there.
Oh.
And there were some people from Iowa, some pastors, one from Waterloo Cedar Falls, and the other from Marion, who helped us get started. They would fly up on Mondays, and we had worship on Monday evening at our home, and then they'd fly back on Tuesdays.
Oh, wow.
And so we were introduced to Iowa originally from them. So we were actually members of Cedarloo Presbyterian Church, which now is Covenant Presbyterian Church in Cedar Falls.
Okay.
Back in the late 70s, when we were starting this church up in Rochester.
Is that church still going? Still
It is. It's Trinity Presbyterian Church, about 300 members up
Wow.
there.
Very good.
So
then
that's
how did you get involved in music?
oh. Well, my mother was instrumental in that. We had a rule at our house that everybody had to take 5 years of piano lessons.
Wow.
Wow.
And I wasn't really excited about that. I would much rather have been out playing ball with the boys.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to thank my mom enough for that gift, because I still play the piano today and enjoy it.
You sure? Was she your teacher? Also?
No,
Oh.
no. She paid for the lessons. However, there was a caveat there. We took a small spiral notebook with us to the lesson, and our teacher wrote in the assignment for the next lesson. And then it was up to us to prepare. And when we went for the next lesson, if we did a good job, she put one of those little gold stars
Oh,
on
yeah.
it. And if we didn't have a gold star when we came home, we had to pay for our lesson.
Oh.
So that was a great motivator to practice. So that's how I got interested in music, and our family is all pretty interested in music, and all of us played instruments in the band. And
Yeah.
I started playing the clarinet when I was in I guess 5th grade is when we started in with instruments. And have played the clarinet both in the high school band and in college and at Wheaton in their concert band, and in Michigan State in both the marching and concert band.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've played in a number of community bands as an adult.
Right.
I still play at
New Horizons.
New
Yeah,
Horizons.
Okay, yeah.
And we have a clarinet choir that I play in, which
Right.
our next concert here at Friendship Village is on January 30th.
Okay.
Write that in my book.
All
Yeah.
right. So that's the violin, what'd you call it? Or the
Clarinet.
clarinet? No, I mean the group. What'd you call the group?
Oh, New Horizons Band,
No, the subgroup. Just
the
you-
clarinet choir.
Clarinet,
Clarinet
choir.
choir.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's about 10 clarinets with one bass clarinet.
Okay.
We'll be anxious to hear them.
Yeah.
I played clarinet in school.
Oh, good. We'd
Yeah.
like to have you join us.
No, I don't have one.
Well, I have an extra one.
don't remember too much. I have to take a few lessons.
Well, as a matter of fact, the New Horizons Band is set up for just that purpose, for people that used to play an instrument and want to get back at it. We have lessons, group lessons, every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 o'clock. We have a music major from University of Northern Iowa as our instructor. And then at 9 o'clock we get together as a band and have an hour rehearsal.
Oh, neat.
So, yeah, if you want to get back at the clarinet, you're welcome.
I just enjoy listening to it. I also played piano. I also taught piano lessons
Yeah.
for many years. But my children all took. I kind of insisted they take lessons, just like your mother did, so that they could learn the basics of music. They said if you could play piano, you can play any instrument, because you need the basis of piano.
That really helps. Yeah.
Yes, so I got them, pretty much the girls, quite a few years. My son got about 3 years of piano, but he went on in his later years and learned to play the violin. And he said that really helped, that he'd had piano, that he could pick up some of the violin.
Sure.
So our family, except for my husband, was pretty musical also. So you landed at Waterloo and lived here. And did you have a home?
Yes. We built a home adjacent to the Conal Christian School campus.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last several years of my employment, I was the business manager of a Christian school in South Florida. And I took that job with the understanding that I would spend my summers in Upper Michigan. So I was really on the cusp of this working at home.
Okay.
Actually, did my job for 6 months in 2001 when Lisa and I were in Taiwan for an extended missions trip.
Wow.
So, yes, it's possible to
Yeah.
do your job from halfway around the world. And so during that period, during those last years, we spent some time in Walker, some time in Upper Michigan, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where we have a cabin, and sometime in Florida. And so we were running around quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, you were. You were really traveling.
But we decided that we wanted to retire in Iowa
Okay.
because many people kind of scratched their heads because we lived in Florida year-round for a number of years. But we like the seasons.
Okay.
Winter could be a little shorter. But
Yes.
Yes.
if we didn't have it, I would miss it. And it's a lot nicer now that we can just sit here and look out the window and say,
Right.
gee, that's wonderful, without having to go shovel it or drive it.
So when did you move to Friendship Village?
Well, we first moved to Landmark Commons.
Oh, okay.
That was in 2014.
All right.
And then in 2016, the end of 2016, Elisa was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and in 2017 we moved here from.
Okay.
Jim, you sure have been a traveling person.
Traveling Man. Isn't there a
Traveling
song
Man.
about a traveling
I
man?
think so. Yeah. Golly. So,
Well, IBM took us to Florida, Indiana, Minnesota, North Carolina, and back to Florida.
wow.
So we did move around a little
Now the
bit.
kids that you raised, are they travelers like you? Or have they moved around, or are they?
Well, Joy lives in North Liberty.
Oh, that's close.
Okay. Yeah.
Dave lives in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, he when we were in North Carolina with IBM, he met this girl, and the rest is history.
Mhm.
He
And you have grandchildren?
Yes, he had 4 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren.
Great, great.
Yeah, I don't get down to North Carolina very much anymore, but I did spend a week over Thanksgiving down there.
Good.
Good to see all the kiddies.
And you lost your wife. She passed away just a couple years ago, didn't
Well,
she?
actually, just this year.
Just this past year.
In April, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many years were you married?
50, just a few weeks short of 57.
57. Okay. That's about when we were married, too.
But I am happy that she is where she is.
Right.
She's in the arms of her Savior.
Right. No more suffering.
Well, it's hard to live when half of your self has been taken away. But God is good,
Yeah.
and I'm very thankful that she's now completely healed.
We are running very close to the end of our time. But is there anything else you'd like to get into? No? Okay. Want to thank you for sharing that life.
Been a
Exciting
very,
life.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
My goodness. This would be a good life to make into a movie.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of turns and whatever. So, listen, the three of us are members of the Village Voices. Is there any chance we could just close out this podcast with a one-verse rendition of Silent Night?
Of course.
Are we up to this?
Yes.
Now, I want the audience, the listening audience, to know that we have not practiced. So we're not even exactly sure how to start, but we know you'll bear with us and maybe join in with us. So we want to just close with our familiar verse of Silent Night.
Okay.
And Mary is our soprano. She's going to sing lead, and Jim and I will just plug in wherever.
We'll
Okay.
try.
All right.
No guarantees.
All right. Here we go.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Hey, as we every time say this at the end of our podcast, may the good Lord bless and keep you all till we meet once again. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Bye.